Turning now to Quebec, a mother found not criminally responsible for abandoning her toddler because of a mental disorder will remain in psychiatric care. The CBC's Gloria Enriquez is in Quebec with more on the 34-year-old mother.
After being declared not criminally responsible, the mother who abandoned her child in a field in Ontario last June will remain detained at the psychiatric facility where she is being treated. But she could have occasional outings under certain conditions. Quebec Judge Bertrand Santarneau said that while the mother is collaborating and her mental state has improved, it still remains fragile. He favored the Crown's arguments that at this stage, the mother poses a threat to public safety. The mom will have a right to approved outings with some conditions, which include not communicating with her child unless youth protection approves it. She also can't communicate with the child's father unless he initiates contact. She also cannot use the internet unless approved and supervised by the team treating her. The mother was diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder, which can lead to states of depression, mania, and psychosis. The psychiatrist who's been treating her said that that's what happened at the time she abandoned her child, that the mom believed the 3-year-old was possessed. After 3 days out in a field, the toddler suffered from dehydration and other injuries, and according to the Crown, now suffers from nightmares and fears being left alone.
Today, she is not free. She will be detained at Pinel, and she will need to prove that she understands her mental illness, she took care of it, and she will not anymore do nothing wrong anymore.
The judge ended by addressing the mother directly, saying that the big black cloud over her head has now lifted, and that he trusts that with treatment and after some time, she will be able to lead, at some point, at least a semi-normal life. The Commission d'examen des troubles mentaux, Quebec's mental disorder review board, will review her case after 90 days, and at that point, they will decide whether they release her or not. Gloria Enriquez, CBC News, Valleyfield.
Dr. Gary Chaimowitz is a professor of forensic psychiatry at McMaster University. He's also the head of forensic service at St. Joseph's Healthcare in Hamilton. And he joins us now to help us understand rulings like this. Dr. Chaimowitz, the Quebec mother is to remain detained in a psychiatric hospital for now. Can you tell us about the assessment process that got her there?
Yeah, good evening, Ian, and good evening, everybody. So, This person was assessed for criminal responsibility, and the vast majority of these assessments take place in a psychiatric facility, specifically a forensic psychiatric facility, where the psychiatrist, usually over 30 to 60 days, with the team, will make a determination in their minds as to whether this person met criteria for being found not criminally responsible. Pretty much like the American not guilty by reason of insanity, but very much enshrined in our criminal code. After that determination, they will then go to court, present their information to a judge or judge and jury, and the trier of fact will make a determination whether the person meets the criteria in our criminal code for being found not criminally responsible by virtue of their mental disorder. To unpack that just a little bit, to be found NCR, you have to have a major mental disorder, usually like a psychotic disorder like the woman you were talking about or was talking about earlier on. And that person at the time of the offense had to be that unwell that they couldn't appreciate what they were doing, the nature and quality of the actions, or couldn't know what they were doing was wrong. And in that case, the judge or the jury may find that they meet the criteria for being found not criminally responsible.
There is such a gap, I think, between how the public perceives this and how people who understand psychiatry understand it. So help bridge that gap for us. I'm sure you don't know the details. Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm sure you don't know the details of this case, but I'm sure you also have been involved in other cases or read about them. Give me a sense of what. How you like it when somebody's not criminally responsible, what is their mindset?
So for the people that get found not criminally responsible, at the time of the offense, they're usually very unwell. They essentially, to boil it down to, don't really know what they're doing because of their mental disorder. And consequently, in an enlightened democratic country like ours and others, there is legislation to ensure that these people are dealt with differently. Doesn't mean they avoid the criminal code, because to be found not criminally responsible, you fall under the criminal code, but you will be, and usually are, detained in a forensic hospital and then fall under the purview of a quasi-judicial tribunal like the Quebec Review Board. Every province has one. Legislation is the same across the country. And that tribunal will manage that person in terms of their rehabilitation, but also the risk to the public. So that group meets once a year and will make those decisions, having heard the evidence from the hospital, from the Crown Attorney, and from the patient's lawyer.
In some cases where an accused is found not criminally responsible, I've heard, and I'm sure you have too, members of the public say, well, that person got off, and they're disgusted by that. What would you say to people who criticize the system that way? So
as I say, this is a function of an enlightened democratic country. We don't hold people responsible when things are not in their control, such as having a mental disorder. I think the important thing, you alluded to this is not getting off. In fact, the vast majority of people who get found not criminally responsible spend longer as an NCR patient than they would if they were sentenced to time in jail or some other regular sentence. And the other thing that's really important to note is that the forensic system in this country works. The recidivism rate, so people who reoffend after being treated in the forensic system, is a fraction of the recidivism rate of people who go into, for instance, the federal penitentiaries or our jails. So the system works, and people essentially don't get off. It's not getting off because you could spend years, decades in the forensic system, mostly because the exit is when you do not pose a risk to the public. And so when that's the case, you may be getting out, but if you still continue to pose a risk to the public, you remain treated and remain under the review board.
Drawing on your experience, do you anticipate that the mother in this case will eventually be allowed to reintegrate into society? So
I mean, obviously I don't know more than, I guess, that everybody knows from reading the releases, but from the sounds of things and from the sounds of the way the judge addressed comments to the woman, this appears to be another tragedy of mental illness where there is a crime committed. We in this country obviously need more treatment before people offend. And in this woman, from the sounds of things, she has a major mental disorder. There are treatments available. She should respond to treatments from what I know about that. And when her illness is treated and she returns to a normal state of functioning, with monitoring and ongoing treatment, she should be able to be rehabilitated and return to the community gradually. So I anticipate, and as happens with many people, if they take their treatment, drugs and alcohol, not a problem, people respond to treatment, they continue to be monitored by the hospital and treatment teams, and are gradually reintroduced in the community, as I would expect, and as I would expect most people would think should happen for somebody who has an illness such as this.
Dr. Gary Chaimowitz is a professor of forensic psychiatry at McMaster University, as well as head of forensic service at St. Joseph's Healthcare in Hamilton. Thank you.